It's not a question, because I need to be kept inside the family of God. I should not be kicked out of the family of God. I may be kicked out of my institute, my convent, or something like that, religious institution. We may be kicked out for this action. But that is a different thing. Being kicked out for this reason is also a sign that is put on our forehead saying that we are believers of the Lamb. We should be proud of it. If at all you are punished for that cause, don't be afraid of the punishment, because the cross which we bear is heavier than the cross of being kicked out. Being kicked out is a lighter cross which we need to carry for Jesus' sake, or Eucharist's sake. But the being kicked out of the family of God is a heavier cross which Jesus asks you to give to Him and take up the lighter one. Therefore, the question is asked here, is it not injustice if a religious is being left out, that too after he has been working for the family of God? Is the question put here. To know the justice behind the act of God, we must see the parable of the workers in the vineyard in Matthew Gospel, chapter 20, verse 1 to 16, which concludes saying, the last will be first and the first will be last. See, how does the last become the first, and how does the first become the last? That is what we should see. You would have read this parable at least about 100 to 1,000 times, at least you would have read. I know all people who are listening to this thing would have at least read this parable about 100 times. But in this 100 times, you would have not searched for this answer, or the answer to this question. Which question? How does the last become the first and the first become the last? That is what we should find out today. I'll read the parable, and while reading I'll try to explain. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner, and goes on. Before that, we should know the meaning for kingdom of heaven. So far, whenever you have read this parable, you would have thought it to be a kingdom. It is not a kingdom. It is like a kingdom. Kingdom here is a figurative speech. Kingdom of heaven is a figurative speech or words used to describe the family of God. Family of God is like a landowner. See how is a family formed in heaven. It is like a landowner who went out early in the morning. A landowner who went out. Here landowner is what? Is a figurative speech of what? It is a figurative speech of God the Father. Or you can even keep it as the Son. Or you can even keep it as the Trinity. God. On the whole, it is God. So, God is going out early in the morning to hire laborers. So, like how a landowner hires laborers for his vineyard, God is trying to gather members in his family. So, while doing so, vineyard, I already explained in the last session, the field of the master. The field of the master. The area in which we should toil is mentioned as the vineyard. That can be mentioned as a church, anything in which you work for the welfare of the family of God. Like how a vineyard helps the master, the landowner, we should also help the landowner. The vineyard should also help the landowner. So the spiritual vineyard is the church which helps the master God. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wages, after agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wages, denarius, you can say. Here, what is this agreement? See, after agreeing, each word should be read carefully. we should find out whether there is some resemblance here which would make that word a figurative speech. So God agrees with the laborer, with the soul, before he has been put to work. Here only we find out one great truth. What truth? That each soul, before it being created as a human being in this world, makes an agreement with God that he will work for the whole day. That is, he will work to become a member in the family of God, a member in the family of God, and as a promise or as an expectation of his promise, the soul should be given a life in this world. You must note everything properly, not just read the parables. You must note or find out all the meaning that a parable exposes to us. So after agreeing with the laborer only, the laborers are made to toil in the field. Likewise, God has made an agreement with us, and after we have accepted that agreement only, each one of us, not only Catholics, all people in this world, after agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wages, he sent them into his vineyard. Second verse says like this. So each one of us are sent into this world after making an agreement with God. So we'll come directly to our situation where a religious finds himself as someone who meets the consequence of the injustice done by God. So this religious person who feels like this should first of all understand that he has made an agreement with God before he was created in this world, that he will one day be called to become or called as religious person, and if he does not accept it, he will be considered as someone who has refused to become a member in the family of God. And likewise, his whole life record or life history will be presented before him and asked whether in all the situation he will continue as a person who perseveres with his faith in the Eucharist. And there we agree. And as soon as this religious person has agreed only, he will be made to be born as someone in this material world. This is what actually happens. And here, after coming here, we should fulfill it. And there he'll of course explain all this thing to him. And after agreeing, he comes into this world. That aspect we should first understand. Like this, each one will have some sort of test, trials, persecution, so on. Everyone, mainly every Catholic, will be persecuted in the name of Christ. That is in the name of the belief which somebody has in the Eucharist. That is, if you believe in the Eucharist, you got to suffer this. And if you leave this faith in the Eucharist and come to this charismatic faith, you will be relieved of all this suffering, and you will have a life, or you will have a happy life in this world. Is what is the temptation we are put in this world. And as soon as we leave that faith, we become someone who has violated this agreement with God. With this agreement only, he sends everyone, not only the one who comes early in the morning, but also the other people. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and he said to them, you also means he has spoken everything about the agreement to these people also, about the people who are already working there, and then he says to them, you also.